Hi, welcome.
Hello, we're just going to give people a few minutes to sign in.
Hi, everyone. Should we get started?
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, you're here to participate in our webinar about summer 2020 remote learning in New York City. My name is Laura Dean Pierre. I'm a social worker at Advocates for Children.
Hi, all. I'm Maggie Moroff. I'm the Special Education Policy Coordinator at Advocates for Children.
Hi, I'm Kim Madden. I'm the Director of Family Support at Advocates for Children. And I just realized that Maggie's name is showing up as my name, but it's actually Maggie Moroff. So sorry about that. We had a last minute issue.
Sorry about that, all.
So in today's webinar, we're going to be going over a few things in regards to summer planning, summer schools, extended school year, all of that. So we're going to ask and answer the question, what is it? When is it happening? We're going to talk about grading and the promotion policy. Who's going to be attending summer school or extended school year or this summer? What summer supports are available for students in special education and for English language learners. And then at the end, we're going to share a few tips and resources with you. Before we really dive into this, we want a chance to get to know who you are. So I'm going to launch a poll right now, and please take a moment to answer this question. Right, most of you have responded. It's going to take a little bit, give another 5 seconds for a few more of you to get your answers in there. All right, thank you so much. So in our audience today, we have a lot of professionals, quite a few educators, and quite a few parents. Thank you so much for joining us and getting started with that. We also have a second poll. Just take a few minutes to answer this one. Just take a few more seconds. All right, thank you. So we run the gamut in terms of who's here with us. 52% have students in preschool, 48 have at least one child in elementary school, 30% have students in middle school, 36% have students in high school, and 14% are looking to address post-secondary needs. Thank you. All right, thank you so much for taking a moment to answer our polls, and let's get started.
Oh, and just to address one thing first, we are asking people to type into the question and answer. Somebody already typed in about our students with disabilities going to attend summer school. So we're going to do our best to answer that as best as we can when we go through this. But in general, just put your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat, and we'll answer them as we go along.
Yes, thank you. And throughout this presentation, there are designated moments where we're going to stop and answer some of these questions. So please don't think that we're not seeing your questions. We will, in those designated times, stop and answer. And if you see a question in the Q&A that you would like answered, please, that someone else has put in, please vote it up. And we'll try to get to sooner. So thank you.
Great. Okay, I'm going to take it from here for a little while, and then we're going to sort of pass this back and forth between us all. Again, I'm Maggie Moroff, even though I know it says that I'm Kim Madden. Just before we even start, we are pulling all of this information together as quickly as we can. The DOE is figuring it all out. So we're going to give you the information that we have to the best of our knowledge today, Thursday afternoon at 4-something p.m. But for the most part, and I know this goes to the first question that someone put up, due to COVID-19, summer learning is going to be held remotely. That said, for some students with disabilities, there may be the option of in-person services. Laura Dean, can we go to the next one? Right, so this actually goes, I think, to that first question. So about a week ago, last Friday on June 5th, the governor issued an order that special education services and instruction may be offered over the summer. It was not a requirement that they be in every district, and each school district is working to figure out on their own what that's going to look like. The New York City Department of Education is working fast and furious to figure out what it will look like. But there's been guidance so far from the Office of Health, the State Office of Health, about hygiene and about taking care and making the spaces safe. But the city has not yet announced what they're going to do pursuant to this. So we are treating today's presentation as if instruction will be remote. If we get breaking news during it, we will share it, but we will also share it after the fact. Okay, next slide. Great. So for the most part, summer learning, there are two different strands of summer learning. There's summer learning, which is called Summer in the City, and that's basically to help students meet grade level standards. And then there's extended school year services. Those are specifically for students with disabilities who have IEPs, individualized education plans, pardon me, that explicitly say that they get 12-month services. A little more background on this before we move on. So students in grades 3 through 8 who get retained this June, as in this month, over the next few weeks, and we'll talk about those decisions shortly, will be mandated for summer school. So they're part of this, the top bar, the summer learning, Summer in the City, as will be high school students who fail one of their required courses and can't move up to the next grade level without that. Others starting at 3rd grade, so summer school is going to be for students grades 3 through 12. So other students starting at 3rd grade may be recommended for summer learning services as well, where they will get additional support in literacy and math. The numbers for summer learning this year are going to, the DOE has already told us that they're going to be much higher than they've been in previous years. So that the ESY numbers, the extended school year numbers, will reflect those students who currently have IEPs that call for 12-month services. But the summer learning numbers are going to be a lot higher this year, very much as a result of what's been going on over the past few months. right, next slide, thanks. So the schedules are a little bit different for each of the different programs. Students grades 3 through 8 who are attending summer school, whether they're mandated or whether they're recommended, will be starting on July 6th, and they'll be going through to August 11th. High school students will start on July 6th also, but they'll go through to that Friday, August 14th. And then students who have 12-month IEP services are starting a little bit earlier and going somewhere in the middle. So they start on July 2nd and they'll go through to August 13th. Just sort of as an aside, this 12-month IEP services, students will continue to get services for them that look a lot like their 10-month services. They may be, well, in another year, they might be at a different location. We don't know right now whether they'll be getting those services in home or in a school building or some combination thereof. And we know that there are a lot of families out there that both are anxious about sending their children back to school buildings, and also others that are very eager to, because their children have needs that are really, really difficult to meet through remote learning. So that's one of those places that we're still figuring things out as we go. Go ahead, Laura Dean. Thanks. So it's mid-June and summer school starts in early July. Summer school notifications are going to be sent out to families this month. As I said before, some students will be required to attend and others will be recommended to attend. I'm going to talk in a few slides about how grading is happening right now. And just as an aside, we did another webinar a few weeks ago, not we, but others from Advocates for Children did a webinar a few weeks ago about grading. So if you have deeper questions than we can answer today, you may want to go back and take a look at that. Good place to stop. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you. We have quite a few questions in our Q&A. We have several questions asking, what about students in grade K through 2? So right now, so as of right now, those students are not scheduled to have any summer school. One person asked, what can we request of the DOE so that our children don't fall further behind? So that may include reaching out to your individual child's teachers, asking for like summer assignments, making sure that you have a good understanding of what areas your child is struggling in to support them during the summer. Another question is, are all students in grades 3 to 8 required to attend summer learning? No, so as Maggie said, some students will be required and other students will be recommended. And there will also be some students that don't get either a recommendation or a requirement. And so those students would not have summer learning. Will kids who are recommended for summer school be in the same program as those who are required, or is it more tailored to the specific area of need? Would you, Kim or Maggie, like to answer this question?
I think it's a little bit tough to tell from that question what's going on. It sounds like a student with a disability by the use of the word regression of skills and breaks in services. But certainly I think, and we're going to say this as we go through things, if for any student, but if you have a student with a disability, one of the main things to do is just to ask for what you think and where they're at now, and looking at their IEP goals and are they meeting them. So I think if you're hearing that, you may want to, if you're hearing that in a sort of bureaucratic, sorry, this is our policy kind of way, then you might want to reach out to our helpline and we can try to tease that out. We have our helpline number at the end.
Also to that point, if this is from somebody whose student doesn't have an IEP, some students who are going to summer school will be students who need additional help in literacy and math. If you are a parent of a student or working with a family with a student who is struggling with those skills, we would strongly recommend that you talk to the people at your school now. Even if they're not recommended for summer school or required to attend summer school, it might be that you think that it's appropriate for them to attend in order to get additional supports. And It's probably a good idea, again, given the timing of it all, to make your interest in that known sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So we have a couple of questions about preschool and summer education. So right now, summer learning is specifically for grades 3 through high school. I don't have any guidance on preschool and what that would look like. I don't know if Kim or Maggie have more information than I do.
I think it's whatever. For preschool, it's whatever you were getting before. It looked like at least one question was about in-person special education services. So that's probably a preschooler who would typically be getting services over the summer. Whether or not it will be in person, that's the thing that we had hoped we would have an answer to right now. But I think it's still very much actively being worked on. And like Maggie said earlier, there's people who fall on any side of that continuum, from I really don't feel safe going to school to I really want in-person services in my home, at a provider's office, in a school, whatever you want. I think the main thing to do is just make sure that you speak up and that you're going up the chain and saying, this is what I really think my child needs, and telling them why. And I think you'll hear this answer a lot, but to advocate now based on what you've seen and trying to ask for support.
Thank you. So we have a few questions left that we might cover throughout the rest of our conversation today. So I'm going to hold off on those for right now and just continue.
Yeah, there was a few that I had marked, one about progress reports. That's a whole section. So we're definitely going to get into that.
Although I do also want to just address, because I don't think this comes up anywhere. Somebody asked a question about a year-end IEP meeting. If you're talking about your annual IEP meeting, it doesn't have to be at the end of the academic year. So your meetings should be happening sort of wherever that 1 year mark falls approximately. And we did another webinar, I think it was a week ago, that Kim and I did with another staff person from AFC on IEPs and evaluations. So I would urge you to go back and take a look at that one for more detail on that question.
Great.
Okay, great.
Let's continue.
Great. Okay. Grading during COVID, again, as I said, there is there's another webinar that was done on grading a few weeks ago, but we did want to sort of, because the decisions about summer school fall from grading, but not only grading, we wanted to cover it a little bit here. So grading is going to take into account each individual student's access to technology during this remote learning period. Grades are supposed to be flexible in terms of how they look at when projects and particular schoolwork was done, based on, again, the tech needs of the family and other things that might have been going on in the household. Whether or not remote assignments worked at all for students, which is a piece of that conversation that's happening now for many students with disabilities about whether or not there should be in-person classes over the summer. Remote assignments work for some students better than others. And whether or not the student met their learning outcomes. Those outcomes they've been working towards since the beginning of the year. So the grading is not just going to be based on mid-March through the end of June, but it's taking into account the students' work all through the year. Grades should not be based on attendance, especially during this remote period, but the DOE did put out guidance saying that attendance would not be a piece of it this year. The DOE did just release guidance on promotion for remote learning during COVID on their info hub, and a lot of what we're going to talk about here follows from that guidance. It's not yet up on their family-facing page. They are working, I think, also probably pretty frantically to get something up for all of you to read and to take a look at, but this will give you a sense of where they're going with that. Okay, great. Okay, so grade options really quickly again, because we've done another webinar on this. They look a little bit different this semester than they have in previous times, taking into account all of the remote learning that either is or is not going on based on all the factors that we talked about on the last slide. So for elementary school students, they're either going to receive, as always, they're going to get a meet standards or needs improvement. For middle school students, same grades, meet standards and needs improvement, or something now being called course in progress. On the transcript, that'll be listed as an NX. Course in progress doesn't mean that the student has failed, but if a student does receive a course in progress, it does mean that they're going to be expected to go to summer school. It means that they have not yet met the standards that the school considered them needing in order to move up to the next grade. And then for high school, all schools have their own grading processes, which they let families know about before the school year starts. They will continue to use those, with the exception that no failing grades will be issued at this point, and students in high school, just like in middle school, will get a course in progress grade. If they get that, they will be asked to attend summer school in order to complete that course in progress so that they can come out of the summer, hopefully, with a final grade. Sorry. Yep, let's keep going. Okay, so promotion during COVID-19 is going to be based partly on grades, but not only on the grades. Promotion, just as always, relies very much on Chancellor's Regulation A101, and I think that might be a live link, so when we send this out to you guys after the fact, you can click on it. But promotion is going to be sort of a bigger decision than that. They will consider grade level. They will consider if the student is a student with disabilities with an IEP, or if they are an English language learner. They'll review all the work from all year, not just the work done during remote learning, and paying a lot of attention to the prior work. They cannot be based solely on the student engagement during the remote learning period. It's really sort of that middle bar there. It's going to be a holistic assessment, we hope. The way that it's going to work is that teachers will review their students' work. They will come up with the students, and they will sort of determine which students they think might need additional time in order to complete their schoolwork. They'll then create, and I saw somebody ask before about portfolios. They'll create one of those promotion portfolios, which they'll submit to their principal, and the principal will review, and then they'll submit it to their superintendent, and then those decisions about both grade retention, promotion will be made, and families will be notified. Great. So these are the criteria, or this is a lot of the criteria that they're going to be looking at, sort of digging down a bit further. Schools are going to review, and I know we've said this a few times, but it's worth repeating because things have been very complicated, obviously, for the past few months. Schools are going to be reviewing the students' performance over the whole year. They're going to be looking at progress towards the grade level standards that were made known in the beginning of the year, we hope. And they need to notify the family if promotion is not being recommended. If it's not being recommended, then those students are expected to go to summer school. That's for grades K to 2. For grades 3 to 7, students again are they're gonna look at whether or not the students are making progress towards their benchmark standards. There may be some changes to those standards based on the complications of the last few months. And for students who are considered for retention, the schools are going to then complete those portfolios of the current work reflecting the student's ability. I can't see my slide. Okay, students, so sorry, I can't read my slide. Students must also pass all 4 courses for students in grade 8, all 4 core courses, so English, math, social studies, and science. If they receive a course in progress grade at the end of the semester, it's not considered a passing grade. It's also not considered a failing grade. So they're going to be asked to attend summer school. I did want to add a few more points to these here. For students in grades 3 through 8 with standard promotion criteria, so not students with disabilities who might, and not all students with disabilities, but who might have modified promotional criteria, and for some ELLS, all of those students grade 3 through 8 who haven't shown enough progress towards meeting the learning standards for the state are going to be considered for retention, and that's when that whole portfolio process starts. There are going to be some students who aren't held to promotion standards, and those include pre-K students, English language learners in grades 3 through 7 who have been enrolled here in the States for less than 2 years, English language learners in grade 8 who have been enrolled here in the States for less than 1 year, and students with IEPs who participate in ALT assessments. Those students are not expected to meet the same grade level standards, and the criteria for thinking through what happens next with them it will be done accordingly. Okay, great. We wanted to talk a little bit about students with IEPs or 504 plans and about English language learners in all of this. So students with IEPs and 504 plans, unless they have something called modified promotional criteria, and there should only be a small number of students with modified promotional criteria, all the other students with IEPs are going to be expected to meet the same standards as their general education peers. If they do have modified promotional criteria, it must be written on their IEP. And what that says is that they're expected to meet some other level of achievement than their more typically developing peers. As I said, that's only a small number. Whether or not they have modified promotional criteria, students with IEPs need to get all of the accommodations, supports, and services that are on their IEPs and on their learning plans in order to work to meet those standards. Students with IEPs who have met promotional criteria but not fully met their IEP goals, according to that guidance I referenced before, might also be recommended for summer school. Recommended, not mandated, being the important point there. Okay, I've said that. And then a note, okay, ELLS. Okay, not my area of expertise, but so I can't answer fine details about this, but English language learners, promotion criteria is going to be based on a combination of the number of years that they've been in the schools and their interrupted formal education status. They must, just as with students with IEPs, they must be receiving all of the services their status entitles them to. And their promotion decisions should be made along with other teachers. So not just a single teacher, but other teachers and other service providers who have been working with the student. Students in grades 3 through 8 who are English language learners and have been here at least 2 but less than 6 years, and for 8th grade, that's true for the earlier grades 3 through 7. For 8th graders, it's actually at least 2 and less than 4 years. Or students with interrupted formal education need to show sufficient progress in their work in English as a new language, in the literacy development there towards attaining the learning standards towards literacy and math. Okay, for high school students, summer school will be recommended based on credit achievement and credit accumulation. So 9th graders need to accumulate at least 8 credits during their first year, 10th graders at least 20 credits, 11th at least 30 credits, and in order to graduate, students need to have achieved 44 credits in required subject areas, with passing scores or exemptions in each of these areas, in English, math, science, social studies, and completion of the Regents exams. These are benchmarks that apply to all students, including those with IEPs and English language learners, unless for the IEP students, they're getting alternative assessment. Students who don't meet these requirements now in June will be expected to attend summer school in order to make up those credits. Great. Okay, so this is a slide that we threw in just for you to get a sense of the credits that students are expected to achieve. We have a whole lot of stuff on this on our website. So I encourage you to take a look at it. We've thrown 2 of the links for New York City promotion and graduation requirements and for various high school graduation options for students with disabilities on the PowerPoint. Again, we're going to send you the PowerPoint when we're done. Or maybe tomorrow, and you can link onto those. But this is pretty much the constellation of credits that students need to achieve. This is required for any and all diplomas, including students who are English language learners and students with disabilities. There are exceptions to the exam requirements, and they are complicated. So again, we urge you to take a look at our website. I'm pretty sure we've done webinars on this, and if we haven't, I'm pretty sure we're planning one. Let's go on. Okay, great. So we wanted to talk a little bit about students who are overage or have been previously retained, held back in the current grade that they're in, or within 2 grade levels below that. So if they're in 8th grade now, were they held back in 7th grade or 6th grade? Sorry, I'm so sorry. I have a cat who is trying to join our webinar and she's very distracting. Okay, so when we talk about overage students, we're talking about students who are 2 or more years overaged for their grade level, as I said, or those who have been previously held back for 1 or 2 years. They will be held to the applicable grade promotion requirements for the grade that they are currently in. Their principal can promote the students, however, if they show gains on multiple measures, even if they don't meet their promotional benchmarks by August. All right, and this is my last slide. So at the end of the summer school, for those students who were required to attend summer school in order to get passing grades, the school staff will review the portfolios that are created this month, and they will look at those in coordination with the summer work, and they'll decide then if the students are ready to move up to the next grade level. Remember, there were some that were recommended but not required. So those students should hopefully be moving up at the end of this. It's the students who are required to attend that that it's not over yet. Their families and their schools and their superintendents will then need to do the next level of review in order to make that determination after summer school has ended later in the summer. I think this is a really good point for us to stop and try to answer some more of your questions. And then Kim's going to take over after the question break.
Yes, Kim has gone through and answered most of your questions, but I wanted to highlight a few. A person asked if the child is required to attend summer school and the family declines, what are the ramifications of that? So the family has the option to appeal a promotion decision at the end of during the last week of August. So families can reach out to their school, their principal, and appeal that promotion decision. But if that decision is denied or declined, the ramifications is that the student would most likely be held back. There was another question that I wanted to highlight. It's slipping me right now. Okay, there's a question about advocating for changing the promotion criteria for a student in District 75. This can be done during an IEP meeting with rationale as to why changing the promotion criteria is necessary. So that might be through an evaluation or through speaking through to your child's psychologist or school psychologist or the school staff to have a better understanding of where your child is struggling in school and what changing the promotion criteria could help. I got a question that just says August. I am thinking that they're asking about requesting an appeal at the end of August. Yes, you can request the appeal at the end of August. All right.
So we do have somebody available for Spanish translation. We know that a few people, for today's webinar, a few people had said that they would be interested in translation, and apologies for not offering that sooner.
Right. So, si habla español, tenemos a alguien que puede ayudarse o que puede traducir la presentación de hoy. So, hay un número, no sé el número, pero pienso que usted recibió el número. So, si usted quiere traducción, hay alguien que puede ayudarse. All right, let's continue.
Okay. And if you were wondering more about the August promotion, because it did seem like that was the majority of, or a lot of the questions were about how do you appeal it at the end of the summer. At the end of this presentation, we have some links, and how this works is probably tomorrow. We'll send you a copy of this because it's being recorded, and we will also make sure that we send you an actual PowerPoint. Okay. And Laura Gain, I just realized, I don't know if this is being recorded. Did you hit record?
Yes, the light is flashing.
Okay, it's just not flashing on mine, so
Okay.
maybe it's different as a presenter. And this is one of the questions that came in earlier about, so I'm going to go through what actually is summer school. We talked a lot about, do you get it, do you not get it? For kindergarten through second grade, unfortunately, and this is not a change, there is no summer school, but you can be held over. And so this is a question that we do get on what happens with that, or even if you're not held over, you might feel like your child needs extra help. And right now we have no good answer for that. I still think you should speak with your school. If your child has an IEP, maybe there's a way to get, summer sets or related services. Sets is like teacher support, special education teacher support services. So that's really the only thing we can say. There are some other free programs that you might be able to tap into outside of the DOE, but there is no summer school for this grade. Okay, so K 3 through 8, all classes, actually we said all classes will be remote. We did this presentation, we finished it earlier this week, and then it sounds like maybe not for some things, but we're not entirely sure. We think right now, from what we've heard to the best of our knowledge, it will be remote, but stay tuned. Okay, all will have some live remote instruction. So what the heck does that mean? These terms get thrown around a lot. You hear synchronous and asynchronous, or live versus something else. But what we're talking about here is live instruction, meaning that there'll be a teacher talking to you in the same way that I'm talking to you right now. And it is, 4:35 in my apartment, and it's 4:35 in your apartment, unless you're somewhere else. And that it's actually like interactive in some way, versus you're getting a recording or you're getting just paper packets. And right now, from what we've heard, there's a huge range across the city in terms of what schools are doing. But one of the top complaints from parents was that they really wanted some live instruction. It's one thing to be able to say, you can check in with your teacher, but it's another to be able to have your child be able to go to an online class and ask the teacher questions in the same way we're interacting. So there will be some live instruction this summer is what we've heard. And it's going to be Monday through Thursday, so it's not Fridays, and it's 4 hours a day. Now, one of our first questions we heard this is, what does that mean? Does that mean your child is in front of a computer for 4 hours? No, it means that the teacher is supposed to be spending 4 hours a day on each class that they're teaching. What that means in terms of the amount of work your child will have could vary. And I know we keep saying this, but the one thing we'd really encourage everybody to do is speak up now about what you think your child will need. Once, if your child is recommended or required to go to summer school, and you think something about it might not work, please speak up, try to advocate. Summer school goes by really fast. It's only about 6 weeks. So speak up early. Okay, and it's going to be in the core curriculum. They have been talking a lot about not only providing ELA and math, but also providing some social emotional support for people, because obviously this time has been really hard and harder for a lot of families than others. And finally, we've also heard that there may be some literacy supports available. One thing with remote learning that, you know, it is an opportunity to have teachers not be restricted to one, you know, actual physical spot. So if you have a literacy instructor, you know, they could work with students across the city if they're matched correctly. And that is something that overall the DOE, not just in COVID, but has been trying to prioritize, is providing more literacy supports. Okay, so, oh wow, there's a typo in here. Oh, I guess, yeah, this says grades 3 through 7. You must attend if students are not promoted to the next grade, you know, if that's the situation. And you may attend, I know we've already spoken about this, so this slide is really more of a repeat. It's if the school recommends that you go. Somebody asked earlier, and I don't know that we totally answered it, probably because we don't actually have an answer, but whether or not these two boxes, if your student is required to attend, will you be in summer school with students who are recommended to attend, and vice versa? We don't know the answer to that yet. My guess is probably, and we're hoping the DOE will do something to match students in a, you know, some sort of functional way. Okay, and oh, okay, this is why this was changed, sorry. So which students are going to 8th grade? You must attend if you were retained based on your math and ELA progress, or a grade in, you know, basically it's in progress right now. And it's the same thing, that you could be recommended to for extra support over the summer. The reason 8th grade is obviously different is if you don't pass, then you're not going to high school, and that's a big deal, obviously, for these students. Okay, so for students who were in high school, you have, and Maggie went through this earlier, but you have to attend if you're, you didn't get credit for a course this year. And if you need to pass the course to receive the Regents waiver. The Regents waiver is a whole other Zoom, and we do have that on our YouTube site, which you can get to through our website, and we have a bunch of recorded sessions. So certainly that's something that, you know, you could log into and look at. It's a more complicated thing. And you might be able to attend, this is the one that I think we've gotten the fuzziest answers on, but they are, if your child is not on track for 4 years to graduate or miss something, it's certainly worth asking if you could take a course for credit.
All right, it seems that most of the questions have been answered. All right. I don't think there are any that I'm going to highlight right now, so we're just going to continue.
Okay, so special education and summer school. This is a slide that has a lot of stuff on it, but unfortunately we don't know that much about it. It seems like this was somewhat of a weak spot, or this has been a weak spot for the DOE for a long time, in that summer school traditionally, and summer school not ESY, so summer school meaning you're, you know, in a district 1 through 32 school, you don't have 12-month services. If you have an IEP, you don't have 12-month services on them. But because of how you were doing in school, you need, you know, extra help over the summer to try to pass and to be promoted. They typically did not have summer special education programs. So if you were in an ICT class or a 12-to-1 class where you had special education teacher support, in the past, they have not had a special instructor all the time in a classroom, or even typically. The one thing in the past is summer school classes were often really small. A lot of kids opt out of going to summer school, or for whatever reason it doesn't work. So they weren't huge classes. Sometimes they were, it varied a lot. But I think this is a time that, especially in the time of COVID, when for so many students, remote learning was really hard. And then if you have a disability, remote learning could be even harder to access. It's a time to ask for, services, to ask for your IEP, your remote learning plan to be adjusted. So certainly you absolutely have always had a right to ask for, and they have provided sets and related services. Typically they're doing what was already on your IEP, but this could be a time to ask for something different and to have your remote learning plan adjusted. So also ICT in small class, it's not typically offered, but you should ask. And if your child is sort of in between, like the reason they need more support is more because of their disability, you could ask for extended school year as opposed to summer school, or at least have that conversation with your school team. Also, other things that they should be providing in summer school would be assistive technology, extended time, accommodations and modifications to the material. So if your child is typically doing the same work as everybody else, but might get things in a different format, or get extra time or reduced workload. So if everybody else is answering 25 questions, they're answering 20, whatever it is, this would be a time to ask for this. And the general message in this is advocate for your child needs right now. And once summer school starts, when it starts. We saw this with the remote learning plans, which took a long time to roll out to parents. And if you don't know what a remote learning plan is, there's some other trainings on our YouTube site, but it is a plan that you should get from your school that describes what they're going to do during remote learning to meet your child's needs as they're laid out on the IEP. Okay, Lordine, you can. Okay, so going to ESY, that last slide was about summer school, and then ESY, which stands for extended school year, which means you have 12-month programs on your IEP. This is not about whether or not you passed a course. This is about, under the law, it's a standard of how many weeks you'll regress if you didn't have summer school. But basically it means that something about your disability means that you really need more ongoing services. And it's based on what's on your IEP. So in your IEP, after the part that describes this program you get during the 10-month school year, there's another section that says, does a child need 12-month services? There's a yes, no box there. And if yes is clicked, then there's other options there. So for students in District 75, this is something that's more typically given. It's actually, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a D75 student who gets 10-month services, or at least they're always offered it. Some of them opt out. And the reverse has been true for students in District 1 through 32 schools or community schools. In fact, it's something that we were advocating for a while, and the DOE really only started doing this a few years ago, and it's still very small. So in each borough, pre-COVID, there would be a handful or sometimes two schools that would offer ESY. So if your child, let's say your child was in a small class in a community school, but it was really clear that they needed the extra help to keep learning and that they would lose the skills they gained during the school year. You could ask for an advocate to get a small class during the summer, but it very rarely would be in the same building and with the same teachers that your 10-month school year class was in. And from what I understand, they're thinking they're going to keep that same structure. So if your child is already one of those few kids in community school who does have an extended school year program, not just services, not related services and sets, but an actual program, an ICT or a 12-to-1, they would provide something. They don't have ICT in that, but they would provide a small class. And my understanding is they're going to continue that. So if you were at, I'm making up school numbers here, but if you go to school PS 1, 2, 3, and you get recommended for summer school every year, not summer school, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. You get recommended for ESY, and every year they provide ESY at, PS 4, 5, 6, you probably would be supported by a teacher from PS 4, 5, 6 this summer. If this is new to you and you think, wow, this is something I could really use, reach out quickly to your IEP team and let them know and explain why. And the standard really is about your child is losing skills over the summer and they need this to keep up. So it's certainly something that's worth exploring. Much more typically what we see is 12-month services and not 12-month program. So 12-month services means, you might be in your local zone school for your class program, but you'll get related services like physical therapy, OT, PT sets over the summer. And sometimes they provide those at a school site, and sometimes they give parents vouchers to try to find them on their own. Okay. The curriculum, really matches for ESY, matches what's going on during the school year. So it's core instruction, literary supports, skills supports, and they do get, if you're in ESY, you most typically are also getting related services. This matches for D75 and D1 through 32. It's a Monday through Friday schedule for ESY, which is different than the summer school. And it's 5.5 hours a day. Once again, our big question was, what does that mean during remote learning? And it does not mean your child is in front of the screen for 5.5 hours, or probably doesn't. It means that's what the teachers are being supposed to be providing for each class. And that's instruction. So if you're getting, PT or OT for 45 minutes or speech or whatever it is, that's on top of that. Okay. Supports for multilingual learners. This is also something that we typically have not seen a lot done to support students in summer school. So now I'm flipping back to D1 through 32 schools, where the reason you need something over the summer is because you didn't pass a course, or you're in progress is what they're calling it now. And let's say you were in a bilingual class, what summer school do you go to? I would say that you should definitely advocate for it. You have a right to this under the law. And they do have, what the DOE has said to us is that they do have bilingual paraprofessionals who would be available to help support a student. The details in terms of how that actually works, I'm not sure. It's something you should certainly ask for. I think if there were enough of a need, maybe they could make a bilingual special education program or a bilingual general education program. And if it was the right grade level and the right number of students who spoke a particular language. There is a remote learning plan, or there should be. We've seen far fewer of those, but for multilingual learners. So that basically lays out how are they meeting your language needs during COVID. Oh, and I just covered the last one, that paras might be available for interpretation. Okay.
All right. There weren't many questions about this. With LB, I'm not sure what LBLD is. Could you? The question.
Learning-based, literacy-based learning disability. I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm usually good at acronyms, but Maggie, do you know that one? Literacy? No. I'm assuming it's something, I think for that, I'm not quite, you can look on our website. We may have some things. I would certainly look on Include New York, language-based learning disability. Okay, thank you. I wasn't totally off, although I may have screwed that up a bit. Include New York does have some things. I would also say, my guess would be look at some of the schools, the private schools that do support this, and ask them. I would cast a very wide net right now and see what's out there. For example, Churchill used to do free summer programs for low-income kids from grades K through 2. And certainly there's ones, if you're able to afford it, that you can pay for. How do you cancel your son's IEP?
Can I go back and say something?
Oh yeah, of course.
The DOE is doing, and you may have seen a collaboration with PBS where they're doing literacy supports and skills online and on TV. So we can send the link with that along when we send everything else. We'll make sure that it's in the resource section.
No, that's great. And so the how do I cancel my son's IEP? That's a slightly different question. You do have an absolute right to withdraw your consent for services. The only thing I would say is, I think in my, I don't know, well over 10 years of doing this work, I've only ever seen once a parent where that's really what they wanted. It can be, and you can ask for declassification, and there's a process on the DOE's website to do that. And you can ask your school, but it does mean you get no support with that. And so if what you want is different support and you really disagree with what the school is doing, you should consider whether or not that's the best way to go. Okay.
All right. So let's think about some tips and tips for going through this process. If you believe that your child needs summer school or extended school year or some kind of support during the summer, now is the best time to reach out to your school, speak to them, ask for these services so that by the time the school year ends, you're not left scrambling. We've mentioned this in August. Parents of students in K through 8 can have the ability to appeal the promotion decision. There was a question earlier about how to appeal. You reach out to your principal. You may want to talk to your child's teacher as well about appealing that decision. This year, there is somewhat guidance about students who are who have turned 21 or who are at the age of aging out of the DOE, staying in school until August. This is what has been said. We're still working to fully understand what that would look like and what that would entail. So please keep a lookout on our website for more information about that.
Yeah, and we have heard from, sorry, I just got an email on this, Lordy, right this second. I don't know if you checked it from Ashley, but we have heard from some parents of students who are in District 75 who were told they can't return. If you get that, please reach out to our helpline and we'll see if we can help untangle this for you.
Okay. And then also we've linked a tip sheet for exceptions in regards to promotion policies for English language students with disabilities or students who have been previously retained. And as we've mentioned, you will get a copy of this presentation at the either tomorrow or early next week, and you'll have access to all of these links. I don't think there are any questions left in our Q&A section. There are additionally some other links that we'd love for you to look at and may have additional responses to some of the questions that you didn't have a chance to ask today. So when you get this presentation, please feel free to go through, click the links, and if you have any questions about any of the information that are on any of these links, please feel free to reach out to our helpline. The information will be provided at the end. AFC also has been doing our social media / I don't know, everything person has been doing an amazing job of keeping up to date with things in regards to COVID. And so on our website right now, there's a very current summary of graduation requirement changes and what that means for students who are who have turned 20, who are 21 or who are getting ready to graduate out of the DOE. One of the questions, I just got a question, does that apply to those who have turned 21 already? I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, maybe it was something, sometimes people, there's a lag between what we say and when the questions come in. Actually, just for people to know that, we also, if you were responding to an earlier answer, we don't see that in the same order, so we don't really know what you're talking about. If you meant, does it apply to students who turn 21 or, well, actually, maybe I should just stop. You can put your question in a little bit more and we'll try to answer it.
So as we wait for a little bit more clarification, yeah, so on our website, there's very current information regarding graduation requirements and changes. And also in this presentation, there are links to state guidance. So the question asks if school will be extended by a year for students who have turned 21. As of right now, no. and that is, as of right now, no. You can reach out to your school, reach out to those in your community,
And reach out to us because it's a policy issue. Sorry, you're about to say that.
No, yeah. So, and reach out to AFC if you have a student who should be, who COVID has altered graduation plans or transition plans for that student. So if you have that kind of question, please reach out to our helpline. I know I've been plugging it for a while and haven't given you the number, but it's coming, I promise. All right, last thing about resources. More resources regarding COVID are on our website. We have live updates and also some other resources throughout New York City that may be of use to you. There is a quick poll survey. In this presentation, there will be a link to this survey online, but if you can right now, just take a few minutes to answer this poll. I'm launching it right now.
And it really helps us, but the first ones, it really helps us, some of our funders want this stuff, and we really look at the questions and the answers, I mean, the answers that people put in here. So please do if you can.
All right, about half of you have answered so far. Just a few more seconds to allow more people in. All right, I'm going to turn it off right now. Thank you so much to all of those who have responded. Thank you. And let's see. All right, so those were the questions of the poll. We're not going to do this, and we're not going to do this. And here is the long-awaited access to our helpline. So if you have any questions regarding support for your child, or questions about the changes in policy due to COVID, or your child's school or the school of the child that you're working with is giving you some issues, please feel free to reach out to us on our helpline. The number is on the screen, and you'll also have access to it when you get this presentation.
And somebody asked about the survey, which thank you, because we really do want to do a plug for people doing the survey. We read every single one. I'm sorry, there's a link in that. It's a hyperlink, so you can't click on it in a webinar. But when we send this around tomorrow, it will come. And if you can take, it's only, I think, like 7 questions, and those include some open-ended ones of what other trainings would you like to hear about? And we really do respond to those. So if it's a training you're really interested in and we can figure it out, we'll, provide it for you.
With the understanding that we're figuring this out along the way also, because so much that is happening right now is new and different for everybody. So we're doing our best to get the most current information out to all of you. It's there on our website, it's here in these webinars, and if there's something, as Kim said, that you want to know, we will work to figure it out for you.
And just to also let you know, some of the things the issues that we're looking at, like Maggie just said, we're trying to figure it out. For, I think the 2 big issues that have come up is there going to be something live for the summer or for the school year for that matter? And if you're trying to we certainly, first you have to try to advocate for what your child needs based on what you know, and talking to the teachers and trying to see what they can do. If you're hitting a brick wall there, go up the chain, try going to the superintendent. If your child has an IEP, call 311 or, email specialeducation@schools.nyc.gov. I had this in one of the question and answers in there, and we certainly have it on our website. But advocate as best you can. And if you're hitting a brick wall, please call our helpline, trying to make sure that parents are able to advocate for what their child needs. And there's a range of options, because obviously there is not one right answer for all kids. And also the issue that Laura Dean was talking about and answering about students who are aging out. One of the things we really are actively working on is what happens for students who are aging out this year. There is on the graduation piece, we do have a thing on if your child is, you know, under 21 but is graduating because of a regents exemption, regents waiver due to COVID. There's a way to file something saying, I don't want that to happen. I want my child to get extra help and to be in school again. That's a great example where people have a whole different range of things. You know, some parents are thrilled that their child is exempted from a regents, and other parents really feel like they're going to miss out. So advocate for what you think your child needs. Obviously, this is still very much in flux, and we really appreciate you coming today.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.